Hi, everyone. I'm joined by James, and we're going to be having a conversation to look at how to develop strategies that can grow the meetings and conference industry on the continent. James, thank you so much for your time. So, this is your second Meetings Africa. So, when you look back since the first Meetings Africa, how have you seen the conversations change and develop?
Thank you very much. You realize we're in the post-COVID era. The first Meetings Africa was immediately after the COVID, and globally, the meetings business was down. It is at that point that we even discovered that we could do more of meetings online. A lot of technology came on board to assist. Nonetheless, that does not take away the necessity of venues, the necessity of personal contact conversation meetings. Coming to your question, having recognized that immediate previous history of the effects of COVID to the meetings business, yes, this time around, across board, there is a growth in business and there is more prospects of future growth. How to bring businesses to Africa and grow the market for meetings? There are three keys that we must agree to. One, we must have an integrated Africa where we must deal with travel restrictions. Coming to South Africa, to some African countries, is more difficult than going to Europe. And it is Africa. And Meetings Africa happening in Africa. As we're talking, among the major partners who are not present in Meeting Africa is Rwanda, because of geopolitics across the globe. Second, we must do a lot of technology uptake. AI is coming up with a lot of force. It is an area that for purposes of our meetings growth and growth of our market, we must adapt to. We must get the right training and adapt to the right tools. And finally, you have to come up with a consulted procedure of having conferences for Africa as a single market. We have a single market approach, particularly to meetings that are coming from away from Africa. Otherwise, fragmented approach to business has also not been very favorable, particularly to small economies. Our sister Zambia here is the industry is not as developed as South Africa. Much as Zambia has an MOU with Kenya to assist them in growing of the tourism industry in at large, with the meetings being subsector of the tourism industry, we need to have a more incorporating approach to it.
I'm glad you brought up COVID. When you look back at the meetings and conference industry in Kenya, right now, are you seeing that pick up and that demand and that activity almost back to pre-COVID levels? Where are we with that?
We have caught up. We are at where we were before COVID. Generally, all the cues, indicators of business are on a positive trajectory. And actually, it is for all destinations in Africa. Safe for where we have a bit of instability. That is places like Congo, places like Rwanda because of the effect of Congo, places like Sudan. But generally, where there is a political stability, all indicators are on a positive trajectory. Yes.
You brought up technology, and I think artificial intelligence and different ways of incorporating this technology within the conventions industry is going to be something all of us are going to be watching. When you look at the industry, perhaps not in Kenya, maybe even some of the conferences you've attended, how have you seen them incorporate the technology into the experience of a convention and business meetings?
In Africa, not to a great extent. I was in a conference in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai. Yes, they've taken up the technology and they're taking great strides in it. In Africa, we are at the formative stages. We're starting to acknowledge that it is a technology you have to live with. And for that purpose, ICA, Africa chapter, in collaboration with ICA Global, we are coming up with programs of trainings and taking out of the correct tools to adapt for purposes of meetings within the AI space.
So talk to me about those initiatives. I mean, you took over as the chairperson of ACA for the Africa chapter. Take me through some of your efforts so far.
What we are focused on closely is expansion of membership. I think we've had new countries join. I think we have Guinea joining. We are targeting to have countries like Sudan joining who have not been members. West Africa largely is missing. So we have specific strategies that we need to deploy to bring on board actually francophone countries, so to speak. It is predominantly Anglophone in Africa here, and more so dominated by South Africa, Central Africa, and a bit of East Africa. So growing of numbers is one. Two, fighting for models that will give incentives for entities to join either as countries or standalone institutions within Africa is another strategy. These could be from a waiver of joining fees, a waiver of cumulative fees that have lapsed for them who had been members previously but opted out, and probably, if necessary, having embassies intervene for purposes of specific countries to conceptualize the need to be members of ICA. Yes.
From the conversations that you're having with the countries that want to be part of ICA, what is it that they are looking to get or looking to achieve for their own individual countries?
First, they need to know what is the value by being a member of ICA. And of course, the value is access to data that allows you to have the understanding of the movement of meetings globally and an opportunity to pick a meeting that you think you're comfortable to host, praise a bit to it, and either win or it is won by your sister country. And that is why I also told you we need also to have an approach that is more comprehensive in nature, so that we're able to tell this category of meetings are better held in South Africa because of capacity, because of technology, because of access, because of infrastructure. And when you talk about meetings, it's from physical infrastructure, that is roads, airspace, restrictions. There are countries who have very serious restrictions on air travel and airspace, issues to do with network and internet. Actually, the backbone of meetings is internet. If you do not have stable internet, you realize even in this convention center, sometimes there's some so that they are going down. That needs to be addressed because meetings are now going digital. Every conversation within meetings, from decisions making by the people who are participating, to voting, to live streaming, to those audience who have not made it physically but still are part of the meeting. So it is assisting those countries come up with the right infrastructure, making them conceptualize the value of being members, and consequently having the access to the ICA database where you have the correct information about global meetings. Yeah.
When you look at the road ahead, what are some of the challenges that you're having to experience in being able to, one, fulfill what you want to do for the Africa chapter, but also maybe even talk about the Kenyatta International Convention Center? What are the challenges of, because you're wearing two hats now? Yes.
Yeah, the challenges, one is that some of the policies that affect meetings are beyond the convention bureaus and the convention centers because they go to foreign policies. And as I've rightly mentioned, like for South Africa, before I go to Kenya, one of the biggest challenges is restrictions in travel. There are countries whose citizens will find it very difficult to get visas to come to South Africa. If we go to Kenya, we also have a similar challenge, but not as strict as South Africa. So we need to deploy a lot of diplomatic policy and a lot of appeals to the other government agencies who have responsibility in dealing with matters, travel, access to airspace. It's another big challenge. And finally, venues. Governments, states, private sector, we need to come up with models that will allow coming up with convention centers that are of modern state with right capacities and right technologies. You realize some countries in Africa do not have convention centers that are of international standard, capable of hosting meetings like the one we are having here in South Africa. You might find some neighboring countries here may not have a similar center where they can host a similar meeting. So we need to build on physical infrastructure, partnerships for purposes of funding, because remember, money is with the private sector, and private sector are better placed to do business than public service. But public service is capable of allocating land and spearheading turnkey projects, then handing over to private sector to run them. So those are the approaches that will make the business of maize more more conducive in Africa and allow us to compete at par with the Europe, Asia, and America.
As you look at the path ahead, what's the one thing that is exciting you about the industry that we're in?
There is a general recognition and appreciation of the value of business events in all economies in Africa. None can claim that they have not experienced the peace and the contribution that business events have been putting within as a subsector to tourism globally. You come to South Africa here, I'm sure if you to analyze the earnings from your business events, it will be a good proportion of the general tourism business and a good proportion of your GDP. It's one business that have a direct forex source. You don't struggle with direct investments. You just need to have good meetings and you'll have direct flow of forex. Yeah.
James, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
For more conversations, you can go to our YouTube page to follow the rest of the conversations that are taking place here in the Brief Box.